Good evening, everybody. I want to thank you for this time. Pinellas Park is a very wonderful place for me. I feel the most at home and the most relaxed when I come here, and also have the most things to be worried about while I'm here, so it's kind of a strange conundrum of feelings while I'm here. The picture before you is truly the beginning. We started out with 8 totes, Rubbermaid tubs. I think we totaled out at about 480 pounds on our initial journey down, and that was January 12 of this year. So it's been right at 10 months, and we travel back and forth. You can always check car seats for free. You can almost always bring a diaper bag for free. So we've tried to learn these little things to maximize the to and fro. We came back in April to take care of some last-minute business in Tennessee. We came back in June for Weeki Wachee Christian Camp and a few other things. And then this trip was a little special bonus. We weren't going to come back until early next year, but the plane tickets after Hurricanes Irma and Maria just skyrocketed. I mean, more than twice as much as what we've seen. And we found some good Spirit flights. And the skills we learned with the packing came in handy, because if you've ever been on a Spirit flight, you know you get bare bones, nothing. They charge you to use the bathroom. So you've got to take care of stuff. But we only had to make a 2-hour hop from Santiago, where we live, to Fort Lauderdale, where we flew into, and then we drove up from there. So we've gotten comfortable, like I said, traveling. The kids enjoy their iPad time. Amos, who's now 2, usually takes the window seat, so he likes finding out what's going on out there. And then the first month we were down there, maybe almost the first 2 months we were down there, the housing we thought we had arranged became unavailable, and we ended up living with a friend in his apartment. And this is Simon. This is about the way it went on the left for that first month and a half, all of us. Between air mattresses we'd put out at night, and then that becomes the playroom during the day. But I do have pictures of our house I'll show you here in a minute. But it was a little rough starting out. The Dominican has, I think, between 6 and 8 million people. We live in the second largest city, Santiago, capital Santo Domingo. It's beautiful. I mean, it is beyond beautiful. People think we're on a big vacation. People think we live on the beach. We actually live in the middle of a bunch of mountains. So we've got to go 2 hours up and over mountains in pretty much any direction. During the course of the hurricanes, people would call and FaceTime and write to us online and ask, hey, are you safe? What's going on? And we say, yeah, we're safe. You know, we're in the middle of a mountain range. You know, we're pretty much in the best place we could be. But everything grows on this island, especially where we're at. We're a very rich agricultural area. That is Amos. Attached to Amos's neck is Amos's head. In Amos's hand is a small avocado. Yeah. When you get outside of the city into where more of the cattle land and farming area is, you start to see these fences. Well, they cut down trees to make the fence posts to put up the barbed wire, just like you'd see a fence anywhere you'd see here. But there, after they cut down the trees and make them into fence posts and put them in the ground, they grow more trees. So every once in a while, they'll cut down the fence posts and make more fence posts. I mean, it's just an amazing process to see this. I had, and we do very much live in a city. Brittany doesn't like it when I tell people it's pretty much just like living in Nashville or something like that, because she does not agree with that. But the airport we fly in and out of is 15 minutes from the house. There's places to go eat. We usually go to McDonald's or Wendy's after church on Sunday. But we live. There's a lot of concrete. The neighbor down the street from me, I promise you, this is what happened. He cut off a palm frond from one of his trees and planted it, and it grew another palm tree. Never seen anything like that. Maybe Glenn can explain that to me later. But I've never seen anything like that before in my life. He grew another palm tree from just a little clipping of a palm frond. It's just amazing. We've gotten used to a lot of rice and beans. If you don't have rice through the course of every day, you're doing something wrong. A lot of yuca, which is like a potato, but not. Plantains, sweet and regular. They fry a lot of things, but Dominicans are relatively skinny people because they do a lot of walking. So I need to keep up a little bit better with the walking. Empanadas, which are lovely, lovely fried meat pockets. There's a man that lives, well, he doesn't live in the van, but there's a man in a van. There's a man in a van on the edge of our neighborhood that sells empanadas with pizza or chicken or rice and chicken, and they're lovely. They're about 40 pesos a piece, so a little less than $1. And I'm saying this wrong. I think it's Toyota. And the Toyota is not necessarily good. It doesn't look like something you'd eat, but you cut it up and you boil it, and it kind of takes over the flavor of whatever you're cooking with. Just one of the things we've kind of learned and kind of going through. But the avocados, I mean, beyond impressive, beyond impressive. And it's not all year round, but they were coming out again as we were leaving. So I'm looking forward to that when we get back. So living down there has been different. Some things have been similar. Some things have been really different. Amos likes to take a bath in one of those tubs you saw earlier that we moved our stuff down in. Doing the little bit of plumbing stuff I do. We brought a water filter down with us, like a whole house water filter. It still doesn't make the water safe enough to drink, but it kind of gives us a little peace of mind as the kids take baths, things like that. Buying pipe fittings to hook up the water filter. I learned very quickly, it's not about having the right piece, it's about having the right combination of pieces. You know, you go to the store here, and there's any adapter, transition, you go down the plumbing aisle, there's any piece you could possibly imagine, and every combination of threads and size and bushings and all this thing. There's 5 or 6 pieces, but you could pretty much make anything work. And I would say that about just about anything down there. We purchased a vehicle. We spent what I felt like was pretty good money on a vehicle. It was around $10,000. And you know, here, I feel like that would buy you a pretty decent vehicle. Since we purchased it in February, March, we've redone the power steering system, the air conditioning system. I had to track down an electrical problem. It took me 3 hours to track it down. It ended up being not any of the fuses, but inside of one of the relays, 2 wires had melted together. The transmission needed work when we bought it, but we knew that. The kicker was the engine. We did have to put a new engine in it. So it's been an interesting process, but really all in all, talking around with other people, I think we're pretty much par for the course. So I feel good about our vehicle we have. I'm just waiting for the next big thing to go. Paying bills, you know, you do a lot more things in person. You go places, you talk to people. The first 5 minutes of your conversation is, hey, how are you? How's your mother? How are you doing? It's just a little slower. You know, you take time to meet people, to greet people, to kind of get to know them. You know, you don't really meet a stranger, so to speak. And I felt very vindicated right before we left. I've been keeping all of our bills that we've paid. And they send you a bill. Sometimes they toss it on the porch. Sometimes they stuff it in the back door. And then you go down and you pay it, and you get a stamped and signed receipt. Well, I've been attaching the receipt to the bill and stacking them up. And Brittany, she kept laughing at me. She said, why do we keep these? You know, we don't need this. And then a couple of weeks ago, a man showed up, and the only English he said was, cut the water. He kept saying, cut the water. And he had said we hadn't paid the bill in 2 months. And I said, go in the pile. You know, some people may say I have some hoarding tendencies, but like I said, I felt very vindicated in this moment. Go in the pile, get the bills. And she was able to show him, look, here's the receipt, here's the paper. So there's things like that where you pay your bill here, you pay your bill there. there. You just have to make sure you have proof of it, that you're able to go back and kind of say what's going on. We're still adjusting. We're still putting together a few pieces of furniture here and there, kind of making home feel like home. But for the most part, we have fun. There's a lot of days we do ice cream. There's many wonderful ice cream places there. You can buy 10 fudge popsicles right down the street from our house for 100 pesos. That's $2. That's $2. You see where the amount of walking I'm doing has not really had an effect yet, right? It helps having the food with our work. So our work revolves around college ministry. We work specifically with 23 students right now. They are at 4 different universities within the city, really 3 universities and 1 technical college, and they live in 3 group homes. The students we have all come from the north side of the island, either from the children's home or the high school that's under the umbrella of Manna Global Ministries, which is who we work with. We do Saturday morning breakfast. We do Tuesday night devos. We do late night dominoes games. Dominicans take dominoes very, very seriously. They are very competitive people. One night at Devo, we tried to do a Bible trivia, and up for grabs was a dozen cupcakes. We were having to research every third answer because they thought I was lying to them. Like, what was the shortest book in the Bible and that kind of thing. I was like, it's in there. I mean, go ahead and take a look. But they got their cupcakes and they were happy, but I learned many things that night. We don't necessarily go to a single church or congregation down there. We encourage them to find their own place in a community and somewhere they want to be comfortable. But we do provide transportation. If somebody hasn't been going in a while, we'll invite them to come with us where we've been attending. I just added people right before we left to my Uber account so that they could book rides, but we could pay for it through ministry expenses. There's bus routes through the city, but the more common public transportation is a 1990 Toyota Corolla. It's by far and away the most of anything on the island, except for ants. There are more early 90s Toyota Corollas than anything else on the island. And you can get in these. They run the same routes up and down. I think there's 23 routes through the city. You can get in, you pay your 20 pesos, and it'll take you as far as you want to go. You get out, you pick your other route, and you go. So just like a subway system in any major city, you just have 4 people across the back and 2 people in the front seat of a Toyota Corolla. I don't know how many of you have been in one, but it gets a little tight. But we do see almost everyone once a week or within every other week. I have 3 guys that I try to spend time with discipling specifically once a week. Brittany has 3 girls that she does the same with. There's a Dominican couple that works with us, and Brenna, who's 24, she graduated from UTC, and she's been living down there a couple years. So the 5 of us really spearhead this college ministry program. We don't worry a lot about money, sponsorships, things like that. We're just there to minister and disciple. Because, like I said, these kids have been in the Manna program. So what happened when they were in high school is Manna hooked them up with American sponsors. And the American sponsors paid for their high school. And as they graduated college, they moved into like an elevated level of sponsorship to help pay for the housing we provide, the food we provide, and the education that's paid for. So that's the 3 big things. There's 3 group homes. We pay for their schooling. And we pay for food in the house once a month. But it's their job to kind of cipher out how the food is distributed, how it's going to last the whole month, things like that. We do have an RA for the guy's house and an RA for the girl's house, a resident assistant that kind of helps us oversee. But, we're training in them responsibility, budgeting, things like this. All of these students have a past, a backstory like you would not believe. They are all first-generation college students. Many of them grew up farming. This was taken out the front windshield of our car visiting their neighborhood where they came from. They all came from within a 45-minute radius of a town called Bobita on the north coast. So they're living away from family. They're living away from their friends, everything they've known. They're going far above and beyond any education level of anyone in their family's ever seen. They're scared. Things are new. Things are different. So we're more than just ministers to them. We're life coaches at times. We're parents at times. We are conflict resolvers at times. And it's a critical time for them. The youngest ones are 17. Being 17 to 22, it's a critical time for them because they're deciding what to do next. Who is this Jesus guy and how much is he really going to be involved in my life? We're there to comfort and support and kind of move that along. Let me go to the next slide real fast. Back to our house. So, round about the end of February, we'd been there over a month, we found a very nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's on the same road as the guy's house. It's around the corner from the girl's house. We bought and brought a very nice color printer with us. College students love to print things. So we make food, we print things out for them, we do what we can to draw them in addition to the events we regularly host, and it's a good thing. We have a living room, we have bathrooms, we have a really big map on the wall that Brittany found when we were down there. We even have air conditioning in our bedroom as of about a month ago. The summer gets really hot, like 40, 42 degrees. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's a lot. The kids, I don't have a picture of it, but the kids have a small backyard. We live behind bars on the windows, razor wire across the wall in the back, and relative mindset of safety. I don't know if I'm... So, keeping things slightly in perspective. The 2 weeks or so before we left, we found a shot bullet on our front porch, had been expelled out of the casing. Our tire had been slashed because we parked it out on the road one night. And are our kids the only ones here? Okay. And our neighborhood is 100 houses. It's a very small neighborhood. But there was a very brutal attack that ended very poorly. This happened within 2 weeks of us leaving. So we live in a relative mindset of safety, but all the time we have to be careful. We have to know where we're going. We have to know who we're going with. Because, we speak Spanish very, very poorly. Muy mal. Muy mal. Most of our Spanish revolves around eating. Don't ask me how that happened. It just did. A lot of our Spanish is greeting people and meeting people the first time, which is great because we do a lot of that. A lot of our Spanish happens because Amos will run up to someone and help them eat their food. He likes to try many things. But we know that we're there to do the work of the Lord. But we tried to keep a mindset of this is not what we know. Here's an interesting thing. Brittany grew up in Russellville, Alabama, which is 20 minutes down the road from Haleyville, Alabama, which I know all of you know as the birthplace of 911. Everybody knew that, right? Yeah. So we've had 911 for a good long time. Grandma, how long have we had 911? Long time? More than 5 years? Yeah. They've had 911 for 4 months. The government put in, it's really awesome to see it come together. And I think they may have had it in the Capitol longer. But it's really awesome to see it come. They bought 50 vehicles. They built a building. They have a helipad. I mean, it's kind of cool to see that come together, but it's still so new. It's like people see an ambulance coming down the road and it's like, what do we do? You know, I mean, it's still that fresh. Yeah. So just the perspective of it's not what we know. It's not that what we're used to. And that kind of culture shock situation gets splashed back onto us quite frequently. So these are some of our kids. And this was a little something we did for our sponsors. It's like, I am blank because you were blank. And they filled in what they wanted. Anderson says, I am everything I am because you were loved me. That's a bad example. Ava says, I am a server because you were supportive. So this was something we did for our sponsors. They try to do something once a month for them. But it's, you know, they're college students. They've got way more important things to do. We do love them. We love having them in our homes. We feel completely comfortable with them being around our children. We try to keep things in perspective, though, and know that we're there to lead them. And what became obvious when we were there on one of our survey trips was that there was, in fact, a brush-sized hole in the ministry in Santiago. Because what they had never really seen before, and believe me, I'm not saying we're perfect by any means, but they had never really seen a functioning family before. There's a dad in the house, there's a mom, and there's children. You know, again, not that what we're doing as a family is perfect, but at least they get to see modeling of a family together in a house, a family together eating meals, a family together studying. You know, we can have these moments together with them, even in small doses. So it's not just about the times we get together in Devo, because we get the question a lot. Well, what do you do down there? I mentioned before that, you know, people say we're on a big vacation or something like that, and it was super funny. The guy that does the Sunday morning church lady, the Bible verses, I don't know, maybe his last name, I don't know. He did a hilarious video about this couple. It was like a spoof. Missionaries in Aruba. It was great. You should go look it up later. I'm gonna leave it there because I don't remember any more than that. But anyway, what happens to us on a day-to-day mission there is just living. You know, just decently living like Jesus wants us to. Decently loving like Jesus wanted us to. And just being there. I mean, it's if I can say it like this and not sound too much like a terrible person, it's kind of like being at camp. And I know most of us have had that experience. It's kind of like being at camp all the time. You've kind of got to be on all the time. Because the kids will text you first line of any message I receive. Hey, you just get the one word. I've kind of learned they're kind of testing, is your phone connected to the internet? Are you available? Are you receiving this message? So the first line of every message, hey. And then you get into what's up. What's up? Yeah. How are you doing? How was your day? So even in your messages, you kind of get that same greeting pattern, that same first few minutes of the conversation, which it's nice. I mean, I've really gotten used to it because, I mean, it puts a personal relationship connection back into things that we've kind of rushed through. You know, going to pay your bill. I asked the lady behind the counter, ¿Cómo estás? And like I said, it's enough of the Spanish I know that we can find out how our days are going together. But with them, they may text me at 11 o'clock at night, hey, I have an emergency. I need to see you right now. I have a headache. But I don't get to find that out until I get to their house to see what's going on. So we pass out ibuprofen. We do things like that. We get, hey, I'm stuck at my girlfriend's house, and the Conchos, which are those Toyota Corollas, have stopped running at 10 o'clock. Well, curfew's in 30 minutes. I'll come and get you. No big deal. Thanks for calling. Let's do better the next time. That's where kind of some of that comforter, encourager, what would Jesus do, to throw back an old cliche there. So that's kind of what we do on a day-to-day. I mean, we just live and minister with them. We eat a lot of rice and beans because of that, but it's what we're there to do. And we have grown because of it. Now, it's a small number of students, and most of them have come to us through some system of discipling or something like that ahead of us. So a lot of them were baptized when they came into us. They're still kind of learning how to relate to Jesus. But this summer, Carlitos, one of our favorites. Is this archived on the internet? They're not going to be able to see this later, are they? That's bad. Well, he still is one of our favorites. Was baptized this summer. And it was a great moment. Carlitos, in short, has had issues with drugs, issues with sex trafficking, prostitution type of things. I don't know if he knows who his dad is. So, I mean, these are some of what I was telling you about earlier, where everyone has a story, a big story. So overcoming that, right before we left, one of the girls came by the house. I mean, we have known these people for almost 2 years now, with our survey visits last year and with us being there this year. So, I mean, 2 years, and we're just now learning some things about some of these people. 2 weeks before we left, a young lady came over and she said, "There's 3 things I need to tell you. And I need to tell you now because I want to, and I may not want to later." And when she finished telling us the 3 things, well, first it was just me, and she said, "You can't say anything about this to anyone." And I said, "Well, I don't keep things from my wife. I don't keep things from Brittany." And she said, "Okay, but you have to tell her. You can't say anything to anybody." So one of those times where you kind of get to teach and lead and still relate and listen and grow. And the things she said, again, I promised her that I wouldn't tell anybody, so I'm not going to tell you. But the openness, seeing her heart just kind of spilling out. It was at the island in our kitchen. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you to do. I don't know how to comfort you. I don't know how to fix anything you just said, but I'm here. I'm willing to work through things. I'm willing to help you find someone to talk to if that's what you need. But most of all, I'm willing to ask God what to do next with you. I'm here to help us see Jesus together. I want to talk about the hurricanes just a little bit, just because those are so fresh, and right after they left us, I know they were right up y'all's alley. These pictures, there's 3 pictures here, were taken 4 houses down from the front porch you saw earlier. You would walk straight out our front porch and walk 4 houses down, and that's where I was standing when I took these pictures. There's a laser on here, isn't there? These are the tops of houses. This is the contents, some of the contents that was inside the house. Now, this area is prone to flooding. So they had put stuff on top of the house or gotten things out, but still to see this volume of water moving in, raising up 25 feet and filling this in is pretty crazy. Because when you look right above these houses, uh-oh. How do I go back one? Oh, Josh, will you go back one? Psst, Josh. Okay. These are power lines. That's electricity. Yeah. So I wanted to mention that, and now we'll go to the next one. You see kind of I did it again. There was current to that's stuff just flowing down. And I mentioned those power lines before. On this second level, those are people standing there watching all of this go by. And this is just normal. I mean, this is just life. Things happen like this. There's, I have to get my phone out to read it. Oh no, I gave my phone to you. Hold on one moment. It's not going to be big enough for me to read up there. Thank you. Seeing the difference between some of the posts of, people around this area in Miami and some of the posts of people in the Dominican during all of this hurricane tragedy and all these things. A friend of ours, Joan, which is spelled Joan, but it's a man's name down there, so there's a few of them like that. So Joan on Facebook says, I have seen faith people, and this was the translate button. So he didn't write it in English like this. It's just what Google Translate did. Yeah. I have seen faith people, strong, believable people, losing it over this hurricane. I know it's a natural event that can cause damage, but where is your faith now? Why do you worry so much? Aren't you supposed to trust the Lord at all times and calm yourself in His Word? Then why worry and make a huge deal out of it? If you are in a safe place and have food and a couple of important supplies, then why worry? The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Even though I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. That's all I know at this point, and that's why I'm not worried. Good morning, people, and be safe out there. I took a screenshot of this as soon as I saw it because it was so different than everything else on my newsfeed. Because, who has that mindset, really? When the dangers are coming and we're looking... Joan is like 25 years old. He's a baby. The perspective here, I was blown away, but it summed up everything I was seeing around me. We spent almost 14 years in Tennessee, and anytime there was a strong thunderstorm coming through or tornado warnings or even the smallest chance of snow, there were two things you could not get your hands on if you had gold bars: bread and milk. And here we've got one of the worst hurricanes in the history of the Atlantic bearing down on what was most decidedly at the time. I don't have the date on there, but he posted this hours before it was supposed to get there. And at that point, we still thought it was going to be a direct hit. But people still out and about, being friendly. The grocery store was still there. Everything was normal. It's just a different perspective, a different kind of thing. Relating to people, growing to know someone just a little bit differently, and kind of keeping that, like I said, differently. This next line, this is the last slide, because I know we've got trunk or treat, and we all need more sugar. I saw this a few days ago on Facebook. I don't know who to attribute it to or would. It's based on a verse found in Mark chapter 1, verse 12. The mission of the church is to change people's citizenship from the kingdom of this world to the kingdom of God. And I thought that was awesome. We've traveled back and forth a few times now. We've been to other countries. I joked at one point, my first nice camera had been on 3 continents and 17 countries before it bit the dust. It had seen some world. It had been some places, seen some destinations. And you go through and you see different customs processes, visas, things like that. And there's things that make it easier. There's this app you can get now. If you have an American or Canadian passport, you take a picture of your passport and you don't have to wait in line. It gives you a little barcode. You scan it. You don't get asked if you've been playing with vegetation or livestock. You don't get asked if you have more than $10,000, which I don't know which person you stop and see to get that $10,000, but we don't usually have that. There's TSA PreCheck, which we have. It bypasses you past the security things. There's all these things that we can use to make travel and life easier to get from place to place. But the biggest thing we're ever going to do for any other person in this world is to change that citizenship and get them into heaven. We can do that with almost anyone. I mean, there's no one not worth saving. Was there enough double negatives in that? Okay. We're down in the Dominican Republic right now. We made a 2-year commitment. We're halfway through that. We will probably fulfill that, but we will be coming back to the States. We will be coming back to what we know, but we're still going to carry Jesus with us. We're still going to do the things I've described that we do now, that we did them before, we did them there, we'll do them again. And every day we get to choose, how are we going to behave to another person? How are we going to treat them? Are we going to relate to them a little differently? Are we going to try to get to know them? Are we going to remember them the next time we see them? And there's things that have come to light for me, for my personality, that, when we decided that this was going to be our thing, I said, God, please teach me new things. Grow me in ways that I need to be grown. It was dangerous because it's happening now. And it's nerve-wracking because I don't necessarily want to be doing some of the things we're doing, but it's growing me and stretching me and making me a better person. So I want everyone here to consider that tonight, where you're at, where you're going, and where your citizenship lies. Is there more you could be doing where you're at? Funny thing, we get news down there, but it's a little different because usually it's been translated from Spanish, for one, and two, it's not as much news, so you kind of only get the bigger stories. But we hear about fake news and snowflakes and these things that are kind of happening in the States. And I just, sometimes I'll be sitting at my desk and I'll think, man, the last time I saw a 22-year-old save the world, it was when the Capitol was against all of Pan Am, and there was nothing anybody could do about it, so all the districts banded together. That was seriously the last time. That was from a movie, for those of you that didn't get that, and it was supposed to be funny, but nobody laughed, so we'll move on. So what we're doing is no different than what anybody else is doing. We're going through, we're learning things, we're living life, and we're doing it with people that speak Spanish, that know maybe a little better how to relate to one another, that maybe or maybe not have a stronger faith that has taught me a few things, and we've really enjoyed doing it, for the most part. We do miss Chick-fil-A. So the last thing, if tonight you have a need, if you feel that you need to be baptized or you need prayers or something of that nature, there's an invitation that you can come forward and we can take care of those needs. Thank you.